welcome to episode 21 of the What Shara Made podcast. Thank you if you're a returning viewer, welcome back, and a big hello if you're a brand new viewer and this is your first episode. Either way, I hope you enjoy it. It's been a little while since my last podcast, and I've been pretty busy knitting-wise and acquisition-wise. I've fully broken my yarn diet. It is well and truly smashed, but that's okay. I've been pretty good all year. At 6 months in, I needed to give myself a little reward. Anyway, I might just get straight into works in progress. You might remember, if you're a long time viewer, some yarn that I bought earlier in the year, some sock yarn called Perfect from Regia. And see it there. And so you get two socks that are going to be pretty much twins, and you can see this yellow leader yarn here. If you start at the yellow section of the yarn for each sock, you should end up with two socks that are identical. That's the plan anyway. Well, I've started them. I'm hanging out to start these socks, and I've started them, and they may or may not be frogged after this. So I started with my yellow yarn, and I assume that the actual idea is that you cut the yellow yarn off at the start, but I wanted that little touch of yellow at the start. I thought it was pretty cute right on the cast on, and then I fit the leg, and I've got some different lighting today. I just need to say this, and I'm still getting used to how it works, and I don't know if it's really showing up as good as it could. I keep accidentally looking into the lights and they're really bright, and then I can't see anything. So maybe this looks fine, who knows. Anyway, to get the entire colour repeat of these socks, I knew I was going to have to knit a pretty long leg, and I don't usually do a very long leg on my socks, and I was a bit worried that it was going to be extra long, so I should start off with a few more stitches than I usually do, and then decrease down to my normal amount of stitches, which I would just do for the heel and the foot. But the leg wasn't anywhere near as long as I thought it was going to be. I've ended up with this giant sock, which I then took down to 64 by the time I got to here. Started with 72, got down to 64, which is my usual amount. It was still huge. So then in the gusset, I got down to 56, and I think that's going to be alright, but I don't know. I may finish this and discover that it's just way too big and completely impractical, and I have to frog it and start again, but no big deal, no big deal. Just hold on one moment, and I'm back. So I'm not sure how these socks are going to go. I really love the stripes. The stripes on the leg look really cool. I'm looking forward to wearing them as a finished object, but I may end up knitting 3 socks once I frog this one and knit 2 more. We'll see. It's typical Regia feel to the yarn. It feels very robust, and it's not all that soft, but it's not scratchy or anything like that. I can feel that they're going to be really hard wearing socks, which is great news. Now, my next one, work in progress, that I've got is a shawl. I'm not sure if I showed you in the last episode, but I may not have even started it at that stage. But it is a different version. Do you remember my asymmetrical shawls that I did I did one in the navy blue wool days yarn and then one in a mustard coloured Cleckheaton Superfine Merino. And this is the same pattern sequence but done in a triangle shawl. So I don't know how well this is going to show up because it's still on the needles. But you get the idea. So oh yeah, I can actually see you through the eyelets there. And got vertical stripes, bobbles, vertical stripes, double moss, and it's going to end again on the vertical stripes. I think I'm going to end it after this vertical stripe section and just have a plain garter border on it. It's, if my calculations are correct, after blocking it's going to be roughly 170 centimetres in the wingspan, which I think is plenty big enough. If it starts to get too much bigger, I find them hard to wear, but we will see. Really enjoying it. It's a really fun knit. I've really enjoyed writing the pattern and I cannot wait to wear it. So excited. Hopefully I will have this finished, the knitting part of it anyway, finished by tonight. That would be really good. And the yarn I'm using for that is Cleckheaton Superfine Merino, which is a DK, but it's a very light DK. It's more verging on a sports weight, if you ask me. And I've done the wraps per inch test with it, and it definitely comes up as a standard sports weight, but it's listed as a DK, but that's okay. This doesn't make that much difference when you're making a shawl. And I can't remember the name of the colour. It's possibly burnt orange, which would make sense, but it's a really nice, like a roast pumpkin colour. Yum, I love roast pumpkin. So I'm looking forward to having that finished and having the pattern published soon. And when I do publish that pattern, I'm going to be having a little giveaway where someone will win a kit to make this shawl, or the asymmetrical one. Both take the same amount of yarn, so be great. Now, I think that's all oh wait, I've got one more whip. Let me get it from here. Now, this whip I started probably more than 12 months ago, and I've gotten a little bit further on it, but not much further. When I picked it back up again, I think last week, I had done, maybe it's covered in dog hair. I had done about that much. So I'm doing the yoke at present. Not that you can really tell what it is from here, but I'd done maybe down from the cast on to about there, and now I've done all this as well. It's really not going to be visible at all on the screen because it is in black, but let me see. Oh, it's really not showing anything at all, is it? Anyway, you'll have to take my word for it. It's a very beautiful, intricate lace cable pattern, and it's challenging. It is not intuitive at all. Every single row has some sort of action on it, and although one row is, there's a super duper action row and a slightly less action row, and because I'm a glutton for punishment, I'm doing it in black, and I'm typically only knitting on it at night because I really like to punish myself. I'm using Bendigo Wool & Mill's Classic DK in the Raven colour. You can see that there. Big giant balls. And I really want the finished jumper, sweater, but I'm not really enthusiastic about the actual knitting of it. And it is I wonder if there's even a picture of it here in the pattern. Don't hold your breath. Oh look, sort of. It's called the Confectionery Sweater, and it's from Knit Scene Fall 2013, I believe. I may be wrong, I don't know. Probably. That's probably what it's from. The last one I knit was in 2013. So that's what it looks like when it's not in black. And you may remember I've made one before in a very dark green, and I've worn it on one of the episodes. When I finally made that green one, when I finally finished it, I wore the heck out of it. I wore it all winter. I wore it almost every single day. It became my winter uniform, which was slightly unusual. I don't know, something about it, because that dark green version of that jumper was almost identical to my high school uniform jumper. So it was literally like I was wearing my school uniform, but I didn't care. I loved it. And I love that green one so much, but I hated knitting it so much. I wanted one in every colour because it's such a gorgeous jumper and it's really flattering and I just love it. But it's a painful knit. The pattern is... it doesn't have an error in it as such, but parts of it don't make any sense. It's got some unusual design features in it which make it really complicated, and the non-error that's in it is that the pattern is offset. It's not symmetrical with your body, and then to make it worse, it's the waist shaping, which is quite distinct and obvious, is also offset. So everything's all offset. It's not symmetrical in any way, but there doesn't appear to be any specific reason for the pattern to be offset. The offsetting of the pattern doesn't appear to be an actual design feature. I just can't figure out why the designer has done it that way, but it's allegedly not an error. But to fix it so that everything lined up was not complicated, so I don't know why it was done in that way, but it was. Let's hold on a moment. So that's the confectionery sweater. It's a gorgeous finished piece, but the pattern is not gorgeous. Oh well, that's the price you pay sometimes. And that jumper is the one that I plan on wearing to the Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show. And every year, before I go to the Bendigo Wool and Sheep Show, I decide that I will make myself a special sweater. Just like people in the States knit themselves a Rhinebeck sweater, I always have a Bendigo sweater every year. And the Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show is our biggest fibre festival in Australia, and I think it's probably one of the biggest ones in the Southern Hemisphere, actually. But it's coming up in July, and every year I leave it to the last minute to knit my Bendigo sweater. Ridiculous. And I knit the original version, the green version of that confectionery sweater for the Bendigo Sheep and Wool Show, and I was literally finishing off the second sleeve on my way to the festival. That's how late I left it. Impossible. So this year I decided I would start really, really early so that I wasn't knitting a sleeve on the way to the festival. And boy, is that a slow knit because I'm so enthusiastic about it. I'm doing about 3 rows a day on it. Oh, I know it'll be easier once I get past the yoke, but until then, oh golly, it's going slow. And I've got this crazy idea that I'll actually knit a second sweater to wear while I'm at Bendigo. That one is nowhere near as complicated and I could probably easily knit it in a week, but if I could give myself a bit longer, that would be better. But because I've put this restriction on myself to finish that, at least finish that sweater before Bendigo. All I can think about is all the other things that I want to cast on right now. And as I'm knitting that thing, I'm like knitting a stitch, and I'm like, I could be knitting those socks and that other cardigan, and I just can't stop. So the quicker I finish that one, the quicker I can start casting on all the other things I'm dreaming about. So now I might move on to finished objects. Well, you might notice I'm wearing one. This I showed you as my almost finished object in the last episode, where I had made it to wear, I was finishing it off to wear to a little fibre festival that I was going to the day after I filmed my podcast, the last episode. And this is my cardigan that I knit with my hand spun wool that I also dyed myself, and you can get a pretty good idea of what it looks like. It's a somewhat cropped cardigan, v-neck obviously, knit on set in sleeves. So they're the style of a set in sleeve, but they knit onto the sweater, they're not sewn on afterwards, thank goodness, because I'm just dreadful at that. And this is one of my own designs, and I'm getting much closer to publishing it, and I get so many requests every time I wear this cardigan. Other knitters stop me and say, what pattern is that? I'm like, it's one from my head. And they're like, oh, you have to publish it. And I'm like, I'm trying. I find probably the hardest bit of publishing a pattern is photographing the piece so that the photographs are good enough to be in the pattern. And that's what slows me down the most. So I shouldn't have trouble doing that, but I do. I find that the hardest bit. Anyway, this is my finished piece, and I've been wearing the heck out of it. I have been wearing this so much. It's really cozy and warm and comfortable to wear, and surprisingly this colour seems to go with a lot more things than I thought it would. I'm really enjoying it. I've got one of my favourite brooches on there. It's made on a piece of wood, hand painted. It's just beautiful. I love it. And a little bit of tea time before I move on to my next FO. This is caramel brownie tea, and it's amazing. And it's in my Bendigo pottery mug. You probably, maybe you can read that? I'm not sure. It says Bendigo pottery, established 1858, Australia. So obviously one of our oldest still operating pottery businesses. I don't know what you call a pottery business. Not a pottery mill. Anyway, obviously it's from Bendigo, where the Sheep and Wool show is, and I got this on one of my trips to Bendigo, and I love it. I love it. There probably isn't not many houses around Australia where there isn't at least one piece of Bendigo pottery, or in Victoria at least. Maybe other states don't get into it, I don't know. Now, my next FO is another one that you will have seen in previous episodes. It's had a few incantations, but this is the final product. I'm not changing it now. My hand spun socks. I love them. I haven't worn them yet. I thought I'd better keep them nice until I showed you on the podcast. And these are knit from some of my hand spun sock yarn, which was, I bought it at the Bendigo Sheep and Wool show last year, and it's a super fine superwash merino with nylon, and it was one of the easiest spins I've done. It was, oh gosh, it just spun so easily and so well and gave me such a lovely yarn. And notice It's a little bit of a difference between these two socks. I mean, the colour variation, that's no big deal. And this sock had already been knit twice before, before it became this sock. And then this one only ever got knitted once, thank goodness. And this one looked very different to this one prior to blocking, but now they both look pretty good. But after I finished knitting this one, the first one, I weighed my yarn and I had less yarn left than it took to knit this sock, and I thought, oh, I'm so silly, I should have weighed it before I started knitting, but I didn't. So I thought, never mind, I'll just make the second sock a bit shorter in the leg, and that should make sure I've got just enough to finish off the sock. And it didn't matter, they're just for me, so it didn't matter if one was bigger than the other. But when I finished this short sock, I had heaps of yarn left over, so I don't know how that works, but anyway, so I decided to do a little bit of sock surgery, and I cut a stitch where the cuff had begun. So initially the cuff was, I don't know, here, and the cuff went down there, and then the leg of the sock started. And I unravelled it, which took forever. Unravelling that way, anyway, it took a really long time, and then I ended up just cutting it off because it was taking too long. And then I picked up some live stitches from where I had removed the cuff, and I started to knit back up this way, and then I did the cuff and then cast off up here. So this was a cuff down, cuff up sock all in one, and I did a reasonably good job until just now when I was looking at it, and I can totally see where I did the sock surgery. There's an extra row of knit and it's made a visible line. Never mind. But now they're both the same length, which was pretty cool. So I'm really happy with those. Cannot wait to wear them. It has been freezing here. We've had quite a few frosts, and often when I'm walking into town in the mornings, it is still below zero. I've decided that maybe I need to knit myself some thicker, warmer gloves. All my gloves that I presently have are hand knit, and they're all done in 4-ply or fingering weight yarn, and it's not good enough. It's not good enough when it's below zero and the wind is blowing. I am going to have to make myself some thicker gloves. Or maybe some mittens to wear over the top of my gloves. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Now my next FO is one that I started and finished in a day, and I did it on a bit of a whim. I kind of had this idea in my head for a few months now, and I did a little bit of playing around one night last week in bed. It was like after midnight, and I suddenly had this bright idea and had to get out a hook and some yarn and try it, and it seemed to be working. So the next day I went and picked up some yarn from my local yarn store, and the yarn that I got is this Fusion Yarn Sulco, and it is 50% baby llama and 50% lyocell, which is like a wood pulp, sometimes bamboo, and it's got a really, really beautiful feel to it. It's silky but still animally. It's really soft and beautiful, and I've used two colours. They don't have colour names, just colour numbers, 201 and TVF023, but it's a charcoal and a creamy colour. And the thing that I made was this little scarf. Yeah, sort of get the idea of it, I guess, if I can put it on. So it sort of goes like this. I'm not really sure how you want to wear it, but you can wear it any old way you like. And I had been thinking about a scarf like this with a dark charcoal body and a creamy beigey lace trim. And I've been thinking, and then that night when I had that idea in bed and I got my hook and needle out, I was writing down a few calculations, and I think it worked really well. So that pattern is going to be published quite soon, depending on when I can get those good photos. And it's crocheted. I don't know, did I mention that? It's crocheted. It's using a technique of short rows, and it's made back and forth like this, long ways. And you make the border first, and you pick up stitches from the edge of the border to make your actual shawl section. So it's the deepest part in here, and then it gets narrower and narrower as you go along until it comes down to a little point at the end here. And you may or may not be able to see, but I've put some little glass beads on the picots on the edge of that border. Of course, they're completely optional, you don't have to use those, but this shawl, if you wanted to make it in a solid colour, we'll just take 2 balls of this, and it would be a total of about 315 metres of yarn. So this little shawly scarfy thing you could easily make with 100 gram skein of sock yarn. So that was my initial plan. I wanted a 1 skein wonder, and this was the result. Because I had the options of 2 colours, I did want to do that, but there's nothing stopping you from doing it all in a solid colour. And because I did contrasting, I needed 2 balls of this, so 1 1/2 of the main colour, and then roughly a third of the, or much less than a third actually, of the contrast colour for the border. So when that pattern's released, hopefully some people will enjoy using some precious sock yarn that they don't want to turn into socks to make something like this. Now I've got some little FOs here. One of my friends is having a pixie bonnet drive for a charity in our city, and they needed as many pixie bonnets in all different sizes, from newborn babies to children. So I thought, well, that is something I can definitely do. So I've made a couple. This little guy, pretty cute, with some ties there. And I've used a variation on one of my own patterns, which is a free pattern on my blog. I think it's called Pixie Bonnet. It's a pretty imaginative name there, but you'll find it there. I'll put a link to it in the show notes as well. So that's that little bonnet. Super easy, like you can make it in start to finish less than an hour. Obviously it's crocheted. And I made another little one that's got bubbles on it. So I'm a huge fan of bubbles. This one is also crocheted, obviously. And I didn't use a pattern, but I just used the sizing that I'm already familiar with for baby hats. And it's roughly 1 to 2 years. This cozy little piece. I really like this technique of the contrast colour bubbles on the crochet. So maybe I'll make a few more of those. This one's really cute. So they'll be going off soon. I told you I've been busy. And I've got one last FO to show you. This poor thing I started in November or maybe December of 2015. It has finally been finished, and I could not wait to get this thing off my needles. And it is my lacy baseball tee. Ta-da! and I've tried it on, and it fits quite nicely. It's fitted across a bust, but it's not too clingy around the middle, which is good. It is very shallow in the armholes. You wouldn't want to be too much taller than me because it would strangle your arms off. So that is a bit of an issue, but it's not so uncomfortable that I can't wear it. Thankfully, it's something that I wouldn't be wearing anything under except for maybe a camisole or something. So it's not like I've got to try and fit a shirt underneath it or something like that. So, but, and the light's just totally blown out. There we go. It's back again. And it has that little keyhole at the back with a button. I got to use a little button from my collection. It's perfect colour. It's just one single lonely little button, so it was great to find a home for it. I'm really happy with it. I can't wait to wear it. I might wear it this Saturday. I'm heading into the city for a little thing, so maybe I'll wear it then. Who knows? Really liking it. I haven't decided yet whether the prickles in the yarn are going to annoy me or not, but I guess I'll find out when I wear it. So, finished off the needles. So that one can be added to my stash total along with the others. Oh, it's so good to finally get some things finished. Now, the next sort of things I've got to show you are acquisitions. And I don't often do an acquisitions section because I've been trying so hard not to get anything new, but get ready because I broke that drought. All of these are from, wait, I'll do one little acquisition thing first before I show you all those things. You may remember me talking about doing really awesome swap with the beautiful Sandra from the Craftfulness podcast, and I forgot to get the beautiful yarn that she had given me to show you. And I hope I didn't show you this in the last episode. If I did, apologies, but you're going to see it again and it doesn't matter because it's gorgeous. This is the yarn that Sandra dyed for me, and it is amazing. And my next door neighbour has just started mowing his lawn, so apologies if you can hear that. So how beautiful is that? And it's a wool, linen and something else mix. Hopefully I'll put it here. Oh gosh, it is so beautiful. I cannot wait to knit myself some of the most gorgeous socks ever out of this. So this is one of the things I have been thinking about while I've been trying to knit that black confectionery sweater. But along with that, Sandra sent me these awesome minis. Oh my god, how pretty are those? I love them so much. And I think I may have finally decided on something to do with all my minis and leftover sock yarn, but I'll talk about that in another episode. And another gorgeous thing that Sandra included in my swap package, it was so good, is this beautiful hat. Check it out. How cool is that yarn? Sandra dyed it herself. She's a really talented dyer, and this hat is just so gorgeous. I might save this to wear to Bendigo, I think. It's so cool. I love it. I love these colours, and I love that graduation of colour. It's just so beautiful. Thanks so much, Sandra. I love it. Now, I'm going to get on to my big pile of acquisitions, and all of these things came from the little fibre fair that I went to the day after my previous episode, and it was in Coburg, and it was held by the Hand Knitters Guild of Victoria. So they're all local-ish to me dyers. Oh my god, I could have gone crazy there. I almost did, but you know, I could have gone crazier. So let me start. One of my favourite button sellers was there, and she has one of the most extensive collections of vintage buttons. I don't know how well these are going to show up because they're all in plastic and I don't want to unwrap them just yet. So there's these gorgeous ones. Purchase those ones as a gift. Oh my god, they're so fantastic. These beautiful ones. God, I love them so much. These beautiful ones that are sort of like flowers. These amazing ones, oh my god, I love them so much. And these ones. They're so cool. So, oh, and one more set. These gorgeous green ones. Oh, they're not showing up very well. And they're sort of like flowers as well. So they're pretty amazing. And I've got some fluff on my nose from yarn, of course. And I got these two from the same dyer. Oh god, how good are they? And I initially bought this one as a present for someone else. And I haven't decided whether I'm going to give it to them or not, because once I got home and I started looking at it more closely, the more I wanted it. So I might have to get something else for that lovely person. I don't know. Maybe I'll keep these, maybe I won't. But this is from the same person. Some pretty amazing speckles happening there. And these are from, now I can't pronounce this name properly, who knows what it's really called, but it's from Ixchel Bunny, Ixchel. Let me show it to you so that you can make up your own mind on the pronunciation. But there you go, it's pretty awesome. I cannot wait to use it. It just looks so gorgeous, so beautiful. Oh, I love it. Love them so much. Now, these next two are from the same dyer. And they're from a dyer that I had never come across before. So that's always exciting to find someone new. And it's called Little Dipper Yarns. And I'm guessing she's from Melbourne, but I don't know. I got these two. They're not going to go together. It's a bit Christmassy. I'm going to make a pair of socks out of these. And I think I'm going to make a pair of socks out of these. And I might add some green vintage lurex thread to these green ones. Ooh, get a bit crazy. And I don't know if you can see that information there about the properties of the yarn. And this one is called New Growth, perfect. And this one is called Flamenco, perfect. Oh god, they're so beautiful. The depth in these colours is just amazing. It's really not doing it justice on the screen, but I love these so much. I cannot wait to start using them. Beautiful. And then this one is called Banana Tree. How awesome is that? Oh, it's perfect. And I think I want to make socks out of these too. And Little Yellow Cat I discovered when I was stalking all the vendors for this market. So I found out about her maybe a day or two before the market, and I thought, definitely going to have a look at her stuff. And when I got there, this stood out to me straight away. But she had some other colourways that I thought about getting, but I didn't get, and then I seriously regretted it. And so last week I ordered more online from her, and they've just been sent, and I'm so excited. I cannot wait to start doing them, to making these socks. Really love it, and she was really, really lovely and really nice to deal with my online order and in person, so that was a real treat. So that's Little Yellow Cat. Absolutely beautiful. and I'll put links to all these vendors if I can find links in the show notes so you can have a look at them too. And this one was from a vendor that I've been stalking for quite a while on Facebook, and I was so pleased when I saw she was going to be at this market so I could squish all the gorgeous fibres in person. This one, oh yeah, it's showing up. It's a navy blue and it's got little splotches of bright colours in it. I think these are just going to make the most brilliant socks. And this is by a company called Dyed by Hand Yarns. You can see their groovy logo there and the information about the sock there. So the colourway is called Disco Fever, and I think that's a pretty perfect description of this. Oh, really love it. It reminds me of primary school, but in a really great way, in a really positive way. So I'm really excited about starting those as well. So you can see why I have not been enthusiastic about knitting that crazy complicated black sweater, because I've got all these beauties to play with. Now, this next one is by a dyer whose yarn I have been coveting for a very long time, but they always seem to be sold out of all the colours that I like online, and I was just finding it really hard to get a hold of anything of hers. So when I saw that she was going to be at this market, I was so excited. And it's Miss Click Clack. I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard of her. And this is on her Merry Creek sock yarn. I used to live right near the Merry Creek and walk along it almost every day. And it's 115 grams. Oh, look, I might as well just show you. There's the information. Colourway is called Turkish Delight, one of my favourite treats. And it's these gorgeous colours. Look at them. And this sock yarn is seriously soft and squishy. It is gorgeous. I really want these socks, but I think it's so soft and squishy that it would make a really perfect scarf or shawl. Anyway, really happy I got that. And I actually got my mama skein from Miss Click Clacks as well, but obviously I've given that to Mum now, and she was really excited by that. And another one is this dyer is called Little Wood. I don't know that she's online, but I've bought yarn from her before at the Bendigo Sheep and Wool show, and I still haven't used it. So, and that was about 4 or 5 years ago. Never mind, it's still gorgeous. It's still good. It's still good. But I got these two. I don't know how well those colours are showing up. This is a solid red. And this one it's coming up quite a bit darker on the screen. It's actually a really vibrant, bright, fiery red. And it's got all these other little different colours in it. And what I am thinking I'm going to do, they're both lace weight yarns, is hold them double and maybe with one other ultra fine nylon thread of some description and knit socks with them. I don't know if that's going to work or if that's just a silly idea. I don't know, but that was my plan. We'll see how that works out. It could be a big disaster. Who knows? But that is all my acquisitions. I'm so excited about all of those. I actually got some other things there, but they're for presents, so I didn't want to show you because I don't want to spoil a surprise for the recipients. And I've actually been really busy doing quite a bit of sewing, and I'm making lots and lots of project bags, and some are for presents and some are for me. And then the others I'm going to put in my Etsy shop. I've had an Etsy shop for years. Like, I got an Etsy shop when Etsy very first began. There were maybe 30,000 members when I joined, and it had been going for less than a year, I think, at that stage. And I put various things in there. At the moment, it just has my patterns in there. But I've been having so much fun making the project bags that I thought I would pop a few in there. But I'll show you those in another episode because there's a lot and it will make this episode go forever. So you'll see them popping up in the shop, but I will show them to you in a later episode as well. So I think that's all I've got to talk about today. Keep adding all your beautiful pieces to the year-long stash busting craft along thread in the Ravelry group, which you can find a link to in the down bar below here. And I will see you all again soon. Thanks for joining me.